All right, guys, so last time we learned about cross contour and how important they are, and now we just gotta practice it a whole bunch of times. We might overdo it, we might practice it a little too much, we're gonna put cross contours on everything, but that's fine. You know, we gotta get comfortable with it. In this project, I'm gonna give you a lot of options, several, that you could start practicing cross contour with. I'm gonna start with the simplest, and that is just drawing blobs. I showed you guys that last time, where I just kind of take a little potato sack or whatever, bend it in half or twist it. How do the cross contours look on that form? Again, just to reiterate, and you could do it from any angle. You could say, I'm looking up at this blob, and then that means this part's gonna be covering this part, because I'm looking up at it. And since I'm looking up at it, I'm gonna be seeing the bottom here. And so I start imagining how these cross contour lines wrap around. You can start doing the other axes if it helps. Like in here, it kind of helps a little bit, but you don't have to. These are a lot less common to do. I only really do these when it really helps to put like a center line. Like this one would probably be very helpful. This one, not as much, not really. So I would probably just do these ones going around the length and then this center one coming down, because it really does show this compression and it shows how this wraps over this front plane like that. That's one example. The next step up is you could start thinking of this as like ginger root, you know, like where blobs just grow other blobs from it. So you could go buy some ginger, put it right on your desk and start drawing it, or you could start inventing it. I mean, they're just blobs. You know, it's little cylindrical bloated things coming out from many angles. But let's say you wanted to get a photo of it. I could start with a little blob, and remember, as you're doing these, think about the shape you're drawing. The blobs should actually look good. I know they're just these random little rounded forms, but the way you position them, the way the gesture is flowing, that does make a difference. Remember what we learned about dynamic shapes and back in the shape section. You know, a fish could just be this boring football shape, or you could think about how those cross contour lines act together and bounce between the little peaks. All that stuff makes a difference. And so go back and revisit that if you need a refresher, if you don't remember all that stuff we learned. But basically, like, let's say I got this ginger, and I got like a little overlap here. I'm seeing the front right here, and so I'm gonna really wrap it around. And then right over here, it's gonna split into two other little ginger root branches. So this one's coming at us. And then it turns a little bit, gets bigger. Got another little nub right here. That's kind of cool. But overall, it's just coming towards me. And you see how putting these little rubber bands around it just makes it look so three-dimensional immediately. And it splits off in here, a little nubbin right there. This one's not coming at me as much as these, right? This one's going more off to the side this way. And so the way this wraps around is gonna be a little flatter. All right, so I can keep going with this, and then I could just start inventing my own, you know, once I get comfortable looking at the photo. Now, one thing I want to mention about drawing from the reference is that sometimes you'll be drawing and there's gonna be some kind of surface mark on the thing you're drawing. Like, for example, with the ginger, it has these little wrinkles or whatever they are, I don't know what they're called, that look kind of like the cross contour lines, right? They wrap around. But the problem is they don't always wrap perfectly around that widest part. They're a little swirly. They kind of go in and out. And so it could sometimes be a little misleading. So in this photo, for example, this little area right here looks like it's curving this way, but it's coming at us. And so in order for us to show that, hey, this form is coming at us, we need to show the curvature this way. So the surface marks aren't always gonna be the line that you draw. So, you gotta use your brain a little bit. You gotta think, you gotta see if this line actually shows the form you're drawing or if it's just some kind of line on the surface. All right, once you're comfortable with blobs and ginger roots, you can go on to the next level. We'll call this level like 1.5, where, if you're level 1, you could totally do this. In fact, you should. This is still level 1, but it's a little bit harder than that other one. The ginger root thing can actually become like a little warm-up. You can start making the blobs into little characters, give them eyes and kind of expressions and how they're twisting and their eyes are looking one direction and their belly button's another direction. You can start having fun with it. Once you got that, you could start going back to some of the things we did in the shape lesson, but start thinking of it in 3D now. So for example, we did that fish. You can start thinking about the 3D cross contours of some fish and some sharks. Go to Pexels or unsplash.com and start looking for little simple sea creatures like that. Make sure they're kind of coming towards you. If you're just drawing the side, again, your cross contours are just going to be straight lines, and that's when cross contours are not very useful. Find ones where things are kind of coming towards you, but not directly towards you, because then you're just drawing a circle, or the cross contour becomes the contour in that case. So something kind of in between where it's coming at you enough that you could feel it wrapping around the form, but not any of those extremes where it's extreme side, extreme front. Find images and start drawing those. And I want you guys to actually find your own reference for this. Go to pexels.com, go to unsplash.com, find some creatures you like. Kind of base it off of your own comfort level of like, okay, this is simple enough. I'm gonna show you right now the seals or sea lions that we did. And start thinking of those as 3D blobs rather than just contours that we did before. This little guy, I'm gonna start with gesture. So this is going to be great. You guys are going to have to remember what you learned. Always good to review. Okay, so I'm just thinking about how this guy is moving his body this way, and then it curves around, and then I don't really see anything back here. He's on this little log or something. Okay, so this is good enough for the gesture for me. And now I'm going to think about the 3D form. Because right now, so far, this just kind of looks like I'm looking at the side of it because I haven't given it any form. But I'm not looking at the side. If I look at this photograph, I can see that it's kind of coming at me a little bit. Like I could feel in here this wrapping around like that. And this wrapping around this way. And I'm ghosting it in. I could feel this ellipse wrapping around the neck here. Wrapping around the neck here, and it's getting a little bit flatter as it goes up, because over here it's going away from me a lot more, and it's also lower than my eye level, so I'm kind of looking down at it as well. Whereas up here it's getting closer to my eye level, and so it's flattening out. And then up here, I'm seeing it from one eye to the other eye, or the brow to brow. It's kind of like that, and that's part of a cross contour. Like if I imagine going from side to side here, and then after I reach the end of the side, it starts to come down, and then wrap under, and then go back around to the other side. So that is one line, one rubber band kind of wrapped around his face. And then you got the snout. It's kind of looking like a little bear or something. That's pretty much it. If you want to come back and clean it up, clean up the lines, you can do that. And darken some of the spots that need to pop out. And generally, you just don't want the cross contour lines to be like the darkest, thickest lines in your drawing. They're not the most important shapes. You just need to feel them in your drawing. But even little flat things like this have cross contour, right? Just a little bit of thickness showing that right in there. It's not a piece of paper. few little details here and there makes it feel like it just comes to life. You know, and now once I've gone in and kind of designed these contour lines, the cross contour lines almost disappear. You see how you barely even see them, but then when you notice them, you're like, oh yeah, they're cross contour lines there. When you're sketching, they should just disappear, but they should be there to inform you and help you draw stuff on the surface of the thing you're drawing and connect other blobs to that blob. They're very helpful when you're constructing and sketching, trying to figure things out, but they definitely should not be the star player. All right, so for level 2, what you guys should do is tackle some more complex creatures. You can be creative with this. Again, go to Pexels, Unsplash, find some creatures that you think are simple enough that you could, feel the cross contours of them and you can maybe even move them around, but not so simple that they're just like worms and sea lions. It give you a little bit of a challenge to construct something a little bit more complicated. One example of a good balance between that is like lobsters and crabs and stuff. So I'm gonna do a little lobster for you. And since it's complicated, I'm gonna get out my red pencil, help me loosen up. So I'm gonna start with that head coming at us. And it's broken up into several pieces here. I see like a head this way, and I'm just gonna think of it as like a simple shape at first. I see the kind of the nose, or I really don't know the anatomy of a lobster. It looks kind of like a nose. This is where the eyes are. The eyes are just these little beads, right? They're just coming out like that. It's really cool. And just adding the eyes in right away really just, I think, brings it to life as well. There, the little eyes on this guy. And before I start doing the cross contours, let's make sure that I'm on the right track with the rest of it. It's got like a little fat body over here. And then these little sections of a shell back here. Now you can see I'm not following it exactly. I'm just kind of taking this as inspiration. I'm getting pretty close, but I'm trying to just draw cool looking shapes connected to other cool looking shapes. And I think I turned this up more, and I did that on purpose because I want to see more of this top plane up here. Okay, and now, before I put in the claws, let's start thinking about cross contour. So it wraps around, and then down. So it's not a simple ellipse. These forms are a little more complex, right? I'm thinking there's a little bit of a plane here, and then this kind of comes down diagonally, and that's pretty straight through here. I mean, I am kind of simplifying it, or I'm designing it. I do kind of see this more of a U shape, and then very sudden across. Like, I don't see it wrapping around too much like an oval down here. Just kind of a little bit of roundness just to give it volume. And then this thing, very rounded, but also wider at the bottom. See this little bloated area right here? Now, I'm not sure what's going on in here. There's a whole bunch of little details. I'm not gonna draw that. I'm just gonna simplify this into like kind of a little boxy organic form, like this. Right, so this is a plane, this is a plane, this is a plane. And we'll wrap this around like that. And then maybe a center line would be very helpful in here. So wrapping a rubber band around the front, over this ridge, and down this way. And actually, let's just continue it all the way across. So I have a little center line. And that kind of disappears behind, and reappears again, and then disappears back there. So by showing that center line, that creates that like little up and down like a roadway. And it makes it much more clear what's going on, the depth in there. And I think I see like a little nostrils on this guy. Let's do that. Again, a few little well-placed details can go a long way. A little mouth right there. I don't see that, but whatever. It looks cute. All right, now the fun part. I'm just gonna draw these two big claws. And for level 2, one way that you can make this like a 2.5 is you could start moving these forms around. So don't go perfectly with how you're seeing it in the photo, but actually just reposition it. Think of your own pose. So you have to study that volume, figure out those cross contours, and then move it, and then see, can you imagine the cross contours on that claw if it was in a different position, right? So I'm gonna start by just drawing what I'm seeing, just so I could study the claws. I Googled, anatomy of a lobster, just kind of seeing top down. There's two forms, just like a human arm. There's the top, the bottom, and then the claw is like a hand. We're not seeing most of that, but I can imagine that, like, okay, there's one form through here, another little guy coming out like this, going this way, and then really sudden turn for this claw. And again, I'm gonna start this as a basic shape. I just want to design a cool looking two-dimensional shape like that, and then start thinking about, okay, how are the forms turning? So it's coming at me quite a bit. I'm seeing it's really fat all through here, right? So this is really round, and I want to show that. And then it actually flattens out, and there's like a second bump. And I think that's important to show, that little second bump right there. And then right in here, it splits off into two parts. This part, and then a little hole. You can think of it like that. There's like a little hole right there, and there's another claw that inserts into that. Now it's actually usually a little smaller than this part. I made it bigger, whatever. Let's put a few cross contour lines wrapping around, showing that this is coming at me. Thing right there. And then this arm back here is going away from us, like that. Okay, and for this one, I'm not gonna show the two pieces in here. I'm gonna move it up a little bit, and let's just draw this giant shape over here. Very similar. So that's a nice looking shape. I like the way that's balanced with everything else. And then really, I just need to show big blob here. And I want to open the claw a little bit. Let's see. So this one doesn't move. So let's just put that in like that. Attach it. And then this one is the one that would open. So let's open it up a little bit like this. There, opened up a little claw. And also paying attention to make sure I'm like drawing the same size of things. I want to make this guy symmetrical. Okay, so this claw's coming at me quite a bit. So I want to make sure this is really round, wrapping around, very, very round like that. Same thing here. This is wrapping around. I know this is kind of flat on a lobster. This part is pretty flat, but I'm just gonna make it a little rounder than normal, just to make it a little bit more chunky, a little more cartoony. Because I am kind of turning this guy into a little character, so. Okay, so there you go. And now from here, what you could do is imagine what this would look like from another angle. So let's say I wanted to like rotate this even more towards us and show even more foreshortening. What would happen is it would get shorter, right? It wouldn't be so long. So I could try to imagine this piece. It's the same width, but just kind of flattened out a little bit more. And thinking about these cross contours could really help me figure out the whole shape. So same thing, just looking at it from a little bit lower. Let's say that he raises this arm up. It's coming this way, coming at us. He's raising his arm. So the cross contours become part of the sketch. It becomes part of the discovery. It really helps me figure out the shapes. So there's another angle of this, and it looks like he's got a bunch of claws. It's kind of cool. But really, it's just, I'm just imagining, what if he took this arm, brought it up? And I can keep doing that in various different poses. I can turn the body and just have fun with it. The whole point of this, for once you get to level 2, is to start imagining the cross contour lines as forms. You're not thinking of them as individual lines. It's just that those lines come down to describe the form that you're kind of feeling there. It's no longer a linear way of thinking. You're now thinking three-dimensionally, and you're just kind of using that image of the 3D thing in mind and feeling over it. Your pencil just kind of glides over those forms. It takes some time to get there to be able to do this, but that's the whole point. Once you get to level 2, you should be able to start doing that for little forms like this that are kind of predictable, not too complicated. It's like a little disc, like a little moon shape, with a little notch coming out and another hook coming out from that. Not too crazy. And then these are just blobs, right? Like there's not much going on here. You could turn blobs, right? You can make it come closer to you. You can move it up and down, make it twist. That shouldn't be too much of an issue for you if you've gotten through this stuff, right? Once you get past ginger and seals, then lobster body isn't too far from that. Lobster claws, not too far from that. And yeah, you just keep kind of moving your way up in that comfort level. And pretty soon you can just draw any organic form. You can see these cross contour lines are not that complicated. I'm keeping all of them fairly simple. It's like, this is a double curve, here it's a single curve. It's really, the trick is figuring out how curvy to make it. Is it almost flat? Is it really rounded? And then what's the angle? You know, this is angled this way, and then up here it's angled a little more this way because I'm turning the form. It's just like with a cylinder. If my cylinder curves over here, that ellipse is going this way with the length perpendicular to the tube here. But if my cylinder turns over here, that ellipse is going to be like this. And so this cross contour is going to be perpendicular as well. Right? So this angle, and then in between there is going to be this angle. It's going to be in between. And then how open is it? Well, all of that you need to start imagining. So this project is designed to help you get there. It's not a test to see if you're there yet. So if you mess up, that's totally fine. Just keep trying again, have fun with it. And remember, they're just organic blobs. If you don't get the proportions right, it's okay. Just try to imagine the 3D forms. That's really the goal here. So have fun with it. Good luck.